Today I'm going to teach you how to change the oil in your car. And the first thing you're going to want to do is get your hair out of the way. So I wear a cap. You can tie it up in a scarf that you don't care about or whatever, but the point is to keep it up off the ground because you're going to be crawling under your car for part of this.
These are Rhino ramps. You drive the car's front wheels onto them so you're not squeezing under the car so much. I marked the floor with spray paint so I wouldn't have to guess about tire placement. Be sure to wear your grubbies and have an old towel available to wipe your hands on. The supplies you will need are a drain pan to catch the used oil, the proper oil filter and grade of motor oil for your car, a socket set to loosen the oil pan plug, and today I'm also changing the air filter, so I need a screwdriver and the proper air filter for my car as well. You can look up your car's oil and air filter needs in a book that's available at the auto supply store. I also recommend a funnel for pouring in the fresh oil, as well as an oil filter wrench. Some of them look like this, but I find this type easier to work with. I also have a plastic drop cloth to catch any spilled oil, but that's completely optional. If you do spill any oil, you can always use clay-based cat litter to absorb it. Now I'm checking to make sure that I got the car properly placed on the ramps. It is hanging off just a little bit, but I'm not worried that it's going to fall off and injure me. So now I'm getting the drop cloth and the drain pan in place for when I loosen the plug from the oil pan. Now I'm going to put in the new air filter. Trust me, it was not easy loosening these screws with one hand while I was filming with the other. And just wait till you see me try to open the box with one hand. Boy, that was tough getting that out of there with one hand. But if you'll notice, the air filter that was in the car does not look that bad until you flip it over. And then you can really tell all the dirt that's on there. So it was really time for me to change that to the fresh, clean, new filter. Alrighty, let's get that oil pan plug out of there and get this oil starting to drain. This is why that old towel comes in handy, because as soon as I get this plug out of the oil pan, that oil is going to come spurting out, and it always gets on my fingers. There it goes. By the way, if you have a nice manicure or long nails and you want to keep that oil from getting underneath there, scrape your fingernails over a bar of soap. It'll be kind of uncomfortable and feel kind of weird, but it will keep the oil from getting underneath your fingernails, and that can be very difficult to clean that out of there if that does happen. So trust me, use the bar of soap. Okay, so after you've waited a while to let that oil drain out of the oil pan as much as possible, you're going to want to take off the oil filter. And the reason you want to wait a little while is because if you take off the oil filter while it's still draining out of the oil pan, you're going to have a heck of a mess. So just wait until it's mostly out. Then you're going to take your oil filter wrench and loosen the oil filter like I'm showing you now. By the way, I was just pointing to and pulling out the oil dipstick. And that's what you're going to want to check, to make sure that you have the full amount of oil that you're supposed to have in your car. Once you've loosened the oil filter with the filter wrench, you can go ahead and finish unscrewing it by hand. And again, you're going to get messy because there's just no way around it. This is why I use a drop cloth, because look at that. If that hadn't been there, that would be all over my floor and I would have to get the cat litter out and try and absorb it that way. So here's my new oil filter. As I said, you can look up what your car needs in a book that they have everywhere that they sell oil filters. I do not recommend going to the dealership because they charge a whole lot more for car parts and supplies and everything. That's why I like to do my own oil changes myself. Anyway, these numbers that I pointed to across the bottom of the box, that's what you're going to be looking for. When you look up your car's make, model, and year, it'll give you what particular oil filter and air filters that you're going to need for your car. So just give a few turns to the oil filter with your filter wrench to make sure it's on there nice and tight, but not so tight that it could cause problems. Just tight enough that you're sure it's not going to leak oil out, and you'll be done with the wrench. Then you're going to finger tighten the oil pan plug back into the oil pan, and then you'll take your socket and turn the little doohickey to the other side, because if you turn it one way it loosens, and if you turn it the other way it tightens. And now we want to tighten. Triangular looking thing on the back of the socket wrench is what I was talking about when I said the doohickey, because you turn it to one side and it loosens, and then you turn it the other way and it'll tighten. Alrighty, all that's left now is to put in the fresh new golden oil. So the first thing you do is take off the cap to the crankcase. You'll want to make sure that you only put in the amount of oil that your car requires, no more and no less. In my case, my car requires 4 quarts of oil, so that's what I'll be putting in. And this is especially important to note because the type of oil that I bought has 5 quarts in its container.